Greetings, and you have been pulled into the Black Dimension. This is Kev, and we are here tonight to do our review and discussion on uh, Thor: Love and Thunder. Warning: there are spoilers ahead, so if you did not watch this film, go ahead and cut this video off now. Go ahead and watch the film and come back and see if you agree with what we have to say. And here with me to do this review is Roger. What's going on?
What up, Kev? How you doing, my brother?
All right. If you want to take the liberty of explaining our three-tier rating system, go right ahead, sir.
Sure, not at all, not at all. Okay, folks, we have a rating system here at the Black Dimension where a great movie we gonna rate a buy, which means go ahead, go see the film right away. It's definitely worth the time and effort. Then we have the bootleg. The bootleg is the movie that's still good, but you don't have to run out and see it right away. You could hold off. I mean, you can still catch it at theater, but you ain't got to run to it. Or you can just hold off till it comes into a streaming service later on down the road. It's good. You'll be entertained by it, but there's no rush to the theater for it. Or then we have The Bomb, which is a movie that your life is better without. And we watch it so you don't have to. Okay. So that's our three tiers.
Okay, and we previously discussed this, so before we get into spoiler territory, we're going to give you our rating for this one. And really, as of late, like the MCU films have never really disappointed us, but for some reason, that's kind of starting to change. So, without being too harsh with it, we're going to give this film right here, this rating right here, bootleg. Bootleg is unprecedented. I can tell you why I gave it a bootleg rating. I really expected more from this film, but this is becoming a trend with the latest set of films from the MCU, and we'll explain it as we go into spoiler territory. Now, Roger, what's your take on this as far as bootlegging it?
Yeah, this film just did not give me the normal thing that I experienced with a MCU movie. The MCU started in 2008. The normal sense has been to watch the movie, great film, go back and see it again. I'm not saying I won't see this in theaters again, but it'll be a while. And honestly, I just may not. Honestly, I'll probably just wait for it to get on streaming service and then see it at that particular point. The movie just didn't do what I expect Marvel movies to do.
Uh, and most certainly didn't. And let's get into why. And from this point on, we are into spoilers. Yeah, it was a good thing to see that Thor, Thor getting back into Thor shape because in Endgame he was sporting the gut, and that was due to depression of the 5 year blip, which wasn't even really mentioned in this film. You also just it was just so much like Thor being instead of being this badass warrior god that he is usually depicted in, he was more of a bumbling idiot. And Thor films have been known for his kind of its mild comedy, but it still stuck and stayed kind of true to the character. This time they just kind of overdid it. Another thing is it to me it just wasn't as good as Thor Ragnarok was. I really like Thor Ragnarok. But what happened with this film is what happening with every one of these films, and I know that we're probably going to sound like everyone else when it comes to fandom, but it's just that we're now starting to see this trend of demoralizing the lead male characters in place of the sub characters, for reasons. Uh,
Yeah, I think the approach to this film probably just wasn't a good approach. Honestly, I think they released a little too much information. The film probably would have been a little bit better because number one, it's the first time that an MCU character got a fourth movie. So that was new territory as it was for anybody to get a fourth movie because everyone else only got three. So now you take a person who's getting a fourth movie. You had Jane also being a Thor in the movie. We probably should have just left that out and let us figure that out when we got to the theater. Maybe it would have helped, to see her come back in a Thor character. Maybe we could have received it a little bit better than what we did. Having Milner come back could have been received better, but it was like
Uh,
a certain agenda was being pushed a little too much, and it wasn't making the story where it needed to be.
yeah, I mean, and me and you had talked about this earlier. I mean, look, I don't I don't have a problem with the inclusion of female characters, but tokenizing characters just for the sake of tokenizing them, and just kind of trying to, instead of giving the audience what they want, trying to like low key tell the audience what's best for them. That is a really poor move, and like say for instance like I said, like demoralizing the male characters and upticking the female characters and not even really giving them a good story. And we've kind of seen this crap in the Marvel Comics line, especially after Stan Lee died. In fact, I don't even read Marvel Comics anymore because of it. But then like it was just it seemed like this movie was more about agenda politics. First off, pushing fatherlessness, because I did not exactly appreciate what they did with Heimdall's son. Instead of going by the name that his father gave him, all of a sudden he wants to go by another name and seek his own identity, which really was totally unnecessary. And why did you do that for? Why did you even do that? Second of all, King Valkyrie, who was played by Tessa Thompson. Nobody is really going to sit up there and buy into a female being king. Like it's like what? What are you doing? The introduction of Zeus, played by Russell Crowe, which that was kind of a joke with it as itself. All be then it being killed or seemingly killed by his own weapon, which was kind of dumb. But let me take the best. I would say the worst. You could say the best part of this film was probably Gore the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale. um, the little screen time that he really had, he did seem like a threatening menace, but there was one thing missing from his character. He wasn't butchering gods. I mean, when he first appeared at the beginning, they kind of fleshed out the reason why he was killing gods. His daughter died after so much praying to the gods, and when he finally ran into a god, the God kind of was like, well, we're not here to help you. You're here to be sacrifices for us. And then he just kind of ran across the Necro sword, which is a major weapon in the comic books. But he killed that god with it. That is the weapon that can hurt the gods. But um, one thing that was missing was him killing other gods. He just kind of fought and made things kind of difficult for Thor. And if you're going to call a character Gord the God Butcher, he needs to be butchering gods. Now they had this place, Omnipotent City, where Zeus resided. It would have been kind of great to to further reinforce his character if he just went there and started butchering gods. But they didn't do it like that, and it just kind of like, okay, now you've got me feeling like you kind of wasted this character.
Well, as a villain, they could have definitely made a stronger villain than because they didn't make a great feel for his presence. Um, because he should be a more just a slightly more formidable foe, but with the way that Thor was being played in this particular movie, he wasn't the Thor we knew because the MCU has done a unique thing where you have characters floating in and out of their own franchise into the greater franchise of the Avengers. And this was not the Thor of Infinity War. This was not the Thor of Endgame. Um,
It wasn't
I
the
mean,
Thor of the first Thor film.
yeah, I mean, he was still powerful, but Thor at this particular point in his life has been through so much stuff and went through certain tribulations and went through a depression. So he's supposed to be coming out of a depression and he's supposed to be ready to take heads again. And that's
Yeah,
not quite the Thor we got in this particular film. I'm not going to, it wasn't a bad film. It is, we're not saying don't go see the film, but it's just not at the level we expect the MCU to be.
yeah. It's a shame when you have the characters, the male characters with their own films, and they make better appearances in the team up films, and films that have other heroes as the main characters, like Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was, in my view, better in Spider Man No Way Home than in Doctor Strange and the Mom. The multiverse of madness. And Thor, you got this same feeling with Love and Thunder. He made, and Roger brings up a really good point. He had a much better showing in the Avengers films than he had in his own film. I mean, it this like I didn't think that I would see a disappointing Thor in this film, especially after the job Taika Waititi did in Thor: Love and Thunder. No, no, excuse me, Thor Ragnarok. You even had Taika Waititi saying in an interview that he wished Thor Ragnarok wasn't so good, and I heard this before I went and seen this film. So it's like, damn, does he not have faith in his own film? And when you get to the theater, you kind of see why.
Well, my thing is Thor is supposed to be the cavalry. He's supposed to be the mightiest Avenger. And then you can argue about who's more mighty between him and Hulk, but he's supposed to be the mighty Avenger. He's supposed to be the cavalry. When you call Thorian, stuff's supposed to get taken care of. The film just did not give me the feel that this particular Thor is this bad man that could do the things that he did across the movies he's been in thus far. He made a good showing. He had a good interaction with the kids. He endowed the kids with his powers for 24 hours. Made a good showing, but this just ain't the Thor we supposed to have at this point. We supposed to have maybe a meaner, more grittier Thor who knows that when it's time to go into battle, we're gonna put all the jokes and stuff to the side. So um it was interesting. Even with Jane being a Thor, I mean, I guess you had a couple of scenes where she kind of showed herself, but yeah, I don't believe we're gonna miss. I don't believe the viewing audience is gonna miss Jane as Thor. I don't think
Uh,
she even had a good enough of an impact as a Thor. She did one cool move that Thor didn't do, but outside of that, she didn't have the impact you would want a new hero coming into the franchise to make.
Yeah, I mean, especially like, it was real cool what she could do with Mjolnir. As she was fighting, she could separate all the fragments and go hit and kill enemies, and then cut the hammer came back together. I thought that was a real cool effect. But I just felt like with Jane Foster that it was a real missed opportunity, seeing that they put the cancer story, like which was in the comic books, and also what was in the comic books is every time she used the power of Thor, it made her weaker and it made her cancer get progressively worse until like it killed her in the final battle scene where she ended up saving Thor and saving the day. And it still ended up where Gore the God Butcher actually beat them and kind of got what he wanted, but they made the story sappy and emotional. So it wasn't that he would have got his wish and kill all the gods. He wished for his daughter who died at the beginning of the film back to life, and then for some reason his daughter ended up being endowed with the power of Thor with eye lasers. Which this it was just to me it was just an excuse to insert another female character into the film itself, which I had no problem with them go like really going the sentimental route as far as him not killing all the gods, so Thor did not end up dead. But at the same time, it's just that you're starting to see this trend with Disney Marvel, and it's just I don't believe that it's gonna work. And you can call me what you want to call me, but at the same time, it's like instead of having respect for your legacy characters and the characters that took decades to build, you're trying to shoehorn in your own politics and your own agendas, and you're just making these movies just miss the mark. And this is what happened with Thor. It happened with Eternals. Kind of happened with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, they're not concentrating on uh, making great stories and epic badass films. Is almost as if they're trying to lecture the fans who spend their money trying to, that want to see a great film, especially with a great established character such as Thor. And it just, this film missed the mark on all kinds of levels.
Yeah, he was a little too oblivious in the beginning, and his toughness just wasn't there the way it should be. And honestly, I think they could have told this exact same story with a much tougher Thor. I don't think you really had to change the story at all. You kind of nerfed them, as you say, for no reason.
Yeah,
You could it still could have been a good story with a much more vicious, more a meaner, tougher Thor.
yeah, you would have expected that, especially after Endgame, after everything that they had been through. Especially like with things like the death of Tony Stark, Captain America, Steve Rogers fading out the picture. You would have believed that he would have taken his role as the Avenger more serious and ready for any other future threats that will come along. But they made him into an idiot. Like, even like, this is the movie that made him look the dumbest. And I like to say, as a fan of the MCU ever since its inception, I would say that I am very, very disappointed in the way this film turned out. And if this trend continues, just we're gonna see what was once a great movie cinematic continuity turn into shit, and it just is, and it's just disappointing to see. Now with the next film that's coming out, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, um, that film could possibly uh, keep the MCU in some kind of contention or break the MCU depending on what they decide to do with the characters, because we already are going into that next film with the knowledge that they aren't recasting T'Challa. And T'Challa, I'm sorry, is another iconic character from the comic books. We're not going to see Black Panther, the real Black Panther, in a Black Panther film, and that's going to be kind of weird. And it's probably going to be more agenda stuff, making the females. Like I said, I don't have a problem with badass females, but you don't have to demoralize the male characters to make the female characters great. And this is just some BS that we've been seeing in these films as of late.
But yeah, I hope Marvel will pick it up because you know I've been able to argue successfully that Marvel's kind of winning at this particular point, and they've been kind of beating DC. Because I got friends with we had a little rivalry that we mess with each other. But if you don't make better stories, DC gonna creep ahead. you know.
Yeah,
So I just
because I
hope
gotta admit, because let me just say this, like, I gotta admit that Black Adam trailer looks kind of good.
yeah, I was hearing about that. I was hearing about that. Yeah, so I just hope they get back on point. It wasn't a bad film. We don't want to give you the impression it was a bad film. It still was a good film. It's just not as great as we expected it to be, especially by it being the fourth Thor film. Like I thought this was really gonna hit the mark and really, really do something. So slightly disappointed that it didn't go as where I needed it to go. So
Yeah,
it just don't have the rewatch value the other movies have.
no, not at all. I mean, it just is what it is. So like with this blunder is the it might be that we might have to come to the realization that the MCU's greatest days are behind them, but they still
What
have films coming out. So
I,
we
I
shall
don't want to
see.
go. I don't want to go too far with it yet because, like I said, it still was a good film. We just the thing about Marvel is we expect great films at this point. This was a
Yeah,
good one. It wasn't a great one. Okay, so it's not like we saying don't go see it. You just don't have to rush to the theater to see this one, which is kind of odd to say that about a MCU film. Something I didn't expect to say anytime soon. But when it comes to um, female characters can always be good. Hence Wonder Woman. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? We still love Wonder Woman. She is the top female character out there. But
yeah. Never had a problem with Wonder Woman.
yeah, you could tell great stories even putting women into the films. So I just think they goofed up on the story. I gotta call them out for that. They kind of goofed with the story a little bit, and they should have had Thor being as powerful as he should have been, and he just wasn't.
Oh yeah, and one more thing, gay Korg. Like, come on, man. It's like, damn. It's like now it's becoming cookie cutter. I mean, and his love has a human mustache. So that we'll just leave it at that. I'm just saying, like, look, that was pretty dumb. That was pretty dumb to do, and just it when people start talking this whole agenda thing, and they see stuff like that, that kind of stuff is confirming it for them. So once again, this is our rating for Thor: Love and Thunder. We bootlegged it. You ain't got to be in a rush to see this. If you want to go see it because you are a constant fan of the MCU like we are, then by all means. But this film could have been so much better.
Yeah, we just expect more out of the MCU. That's all.
Yes,
We just expect more.
yeah,
But
and
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
leave it there.
yeah, it could be a curse of his own success, but just because how great the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame was, and it just did they just gave they're too good for their own good at this point. It's kind of like when WWE bought out WCW back at the beginning of the 2000s, and you kind of saw what happened to WWE's product after that. They became very complacent, and now I think the same thing is happening with the MCU. They have a bit of complacency because they sat on top for so long. But look, it's just if DC wants to strike, now is the time. Bring Zack Snyder back in, bring Henry Cavill back as Superman, and rock this mother, and make them stake their game back up. So, like I said, we will see with the next film. So, anything else, Roger?
No, that'll do it for me. That'll do it for me.
Yeah, and that'll do it for me too. This is Kevin Roger. You have been pulled into the black dimension. Good luck finding your way out. Till the next time.